I never thought I would say these words out loud, but the person who betrayed me the most wasn't a stranger, wasn't a distant acquaintance, and not even someone I barely trusted. It was my own son. My flesh and blood. The child I carried, the boy I raised with love and sacrifice, the one I believed would stand by me when the world turned its back. And yet, one day, with a smirk on his face and a coldness in his eyes I will never forget, he took every cent of my retirement savings, and laughed. Yes, laughed, as if it were the most amusing thing in the world, as if my years of work and sweat meant nothing but a punchline in his little game. And before I even tell you what happened next, before I unravel how that moment shattered me, and how, 6 months later, fate placed him at my doorstep, begging for the very help he once mocked, I want to invite you to stay with me until the very end. Because what I'm about to share isn't just my story, it's a lesson, a warning, a confession that may echo in your own life. And if stories like this touch you, if you don't want to miss the twists and truths hidden in family ties, don't forget to subscribe, to stay close. Because these voices, the voices of mothers, women, people who lived through betrayal, deserve to be heard now. Let me take you back that I had worked all my life. Do you know what that means, truly? Not just the idea of punching in at a job or collecting a paycheck. I mean the kind of work that leaves your back aching at night, the kind that steals your youth, but builds the dreams of your children. I had stitched clothes late into the evening, taken extra shifts, skipped meals so my son could eat better. Every decision, every coin, every sacrifice was made with him in mind. Mothers do that, don't they? We think of our children before we think of ourselves. We build their wings even if it means breaking our own bones. For years, I told myself it was worth it. I told myself that one day, when I was too tired to keep going, I would finally rest. That's what the retirement savings were for, not luxury, not extravagance, just dignity. A small cushion so I wouldn't be a burden. And yet, the one person I thought I was protecting was the one who snatched it away. I still remember the moment as if it were carved into my soul. He came to me one afternoon, eyes bright, voice dripping with persuasion. "Mom, you know I need this. It's just an investment. I'll triple it. You'll never have to worry again." Haven't we all heard words like that before? Promises wrapped in gold, lies disguised as love. But when it comes from your child, how do you say no? How do you turn away the very person you gave life to? So I gave him access. I trusted him. And within days, it was gone. My entire retirement, my years of sacrifice, my safety net, emptied out like it was dust. And when I confronted him, shaking, tears in my eyes, he laughed. A laugh that cut deeper than any insult. "You'll be fine, Mom. Stop being dramatic. It's just money. Just money. Tell me, how many sleepless nights can be reduced to just money? How many years of aching hands, how many birthdays I skipped gifts for myself so he could have more, all dismissed as just money?" That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in silence, staring at the ceiling, replaying his words. Something inside me cracked. It wasn't just the theft, it was the mockery, the dismissal, the realization that the boy I raised no longer saw me as his mother, but as a resource, an ATM, something to use and discard, and the world felt empty. Have you ever felt that kind of emptiness? When the person you gave everything to turns into a stranger before your very eyes. For 6 months, I carried that wound in silence. 6 months of whispers behind my back, 6 months of people asking, "Why do you look so tired? Why does your smile feel forced?" 6 months of pretending everything was fine, when in reality, I was counting every coin, wondering how I'd pay for groceries, ashamed to admit the truth. Ashamed that my own son, the boy I raised, had stripped me of dignity. But here's the thing about life, it has a way of turning tables when you least expect it. Fate listens, even when you think no one else does. And 6 months later, when I least expected it, there was a knock on my door. I opened it, and there he was. My son. The same son who laughed in my face as he drained me dry. Only this time, he wasn't laughing. His eyes were swollen, his voice cracked, and the word "Mom" escaped his lips like a plea. Do you know what it feels like to see your child crumble at your doorstep, begging for the very help he once mocked? That is where my story truly begins. I froze at the doorway, my hand still gripping the handle as if it could anchor me to reality. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming, because how could it be him? My son. The same boy who had stood before me 6 months earlier, smirking as he drained my savings, mocking me as if I were a fool. Only now, the smirk was gone. His lips trembled, his eyes were red, his shoulders sagged under an invisible weight. "Mom," he whispered, his voice cracking in a way I hadn't heard since he was a child. "Please. I need you." And my heart, oh, my foolish heart. Do you know what it does when your child says those words, even after everything? It betrays you. It surges with love, with worry, with an ache that never dies. A mother's heart doesn't forget, no matter how deep the wound. But behind that pulse of love, there was something else, a shadow of rage, a bitterness that coiled in my chest. I wanted to slam the door. I wanted to scream, "Where were you when I needed you? Where was this desperation when you left me penniless?" But the words got stuck in my throat, swallowed by the sight of him falling to his knees on my porch. 6 months ago, he had laughed. 6 months ago, he had stolen from me with no remorse. 6 months ago, I was nothing but a stepping stone in his climb for greed. And now, he was on his knees. What happened? I managed to ask, my voice trembling, half with anger, half with fear. He looked up at me, and for the first time in years, I saw shame in his eyes. Real shame. His hands shook as he tried to steady himself. "It's gone, Mom. Everything. The money, the friends, the life I thought I had. It's all gone. And I have nowhere else to go." I wanted to laugh then. Isn't that cruel? But after months of tears, months of counting coins and feeling invisible, part of me wanted to laugh at the irony. My son, who thought he was untouchable, was now standing before me like a lost boy again. But I didn't laugh. I couldn't. Because deep inside, my heart still whispered, "This is your child, why now?" I asked. "Why come to me? After everything you did, after the way you mocked me, why do you think you deserve my help?" He lowered his head, unable to meet my eyes. "Because you're the only one who ever truly cared. And I didn't see it until it was too late." Oh, those words cut sharper than any blade. Because they were true. I had always cared. I had always sacrificed. And he hadn't seen it, until the world stripped him of everything else. But here's the question I wrestled with, as he knelt there on my porch, tears dripping onto the concrete. Does realizing the truth erase the betrayal? Does regret mend the wound? I didn't answer him right away. I stepped back, leaving him in the doorway, my mind spinning with memories, his laughter, his betrayal, the emptiness of my bank account, the cold nights I spent wondering how I would survive. And now, this moment. He begged. He pleaded. "Just let me in, Mom. Please. I don't have anyone else." And I stood there, torn between the mother who wanted to cradle her son and the woman who had been broken by him. Torn between forgiveness and justice. I finally moved, but not in the way he expected. I didn't open the door wide. I didn't rush to embrace him. Instead, I said quietly, "If you step inside, everything changes. Everything. No more lies. No more laughter at my pain. If you want my help, you will face what you've done. Do you understand?" He nodded desperately, wiping his face. "Yes, Mom. I'll do anything. Anything." I let him in, but little did he know, this was not the homecoming he imagined. Because in my heart, I had already decided, if I let him back into my life, it would be on my terms. And this time, I wouldn't be the one begging. That night, as he sat across from me at the same table where he once laughed at my tears, I realized something. Life had brought him back not just for me to save him, but for me to see the truth of who he really was, and the truth was only beginning to reveal itself. He sat across from me at the kitchen table, his head bowed low, his hands restless on the surface as though they couldn't find a place to rest. It was strange, seeing him there. The same son who had once mocked me, who had walked out the door without a second glance, was now hunched like a scolded child, waiting for me to speak. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. I didn't rush to fill it. Why should I? For 6 long months, I had been forced to live with silence, silence in my home, silence in my heart, silence in the calls that never came from him. Let him taste it now. Finally, he cleared his throat. "Mom, I'm sorry." 2 words. Just 2. And they were supposed to undo 6 months of pain? Years of sacrifice? Did he think those words were a magic key that could reopen a door he had slammed shut? I leaned back, crossing my arms. "Sorry," I repeated, my voice sharp with disbelief. "Is that all you have to say?" He flinched, like the words had struck him. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was smarter, thought I had it all figured out. The money, it blinded me. I thought if I had enough, I wouldn't need anyone. "And did it work?" I asked coldly. "Did the money keep you warm at night? Did it hold you when you realized you were alone?" He lowered his gaze again, shame painting his face. "No, it didn't." But even as he spoke, I watched him closely. Something in his tone, in the way his eyes flickered away, told me he wasn't saying everything. He was sorry, yes, but not completely. And that's the thing about lies, mothers can smell them. "We always can. Tell me the truth," I pressed. "All of it. Where did the money go? What did you do with everything I saved?" He hesitated, his jaw tightening. "I invested, but it was a mistake. I trusted the wrong people. They took advantage of me." I narrowed my eyes. The wrong people? Or the wrong choices? His silence was answer enough. Memories flooded back, 6 months of torment, of people whispering behind my back, of creditors calling, of me clipping coupons and skipping meals while pretending everything was fine. And he sat there now, pretending to be broken, but I could see the cracks in his story. "You're not telling me everything," I said firmly. He looked up then, desperation flashing in his eyes. "Please, Mom. Don't make me go into it right now. Just, help me get back on my feet. I'll do better this time, I promise." Promises. Always promises. Hadn't he promised before? Hadn't he sworn that the money would triple, that I'd never have to worry again? Promises had become his favorite weapon, soft enough to sound like love, sharp enough to pierce me when they crumbled. I didn't answer him. Instead, I stood and began to make tea, the clink of the kettle filling the silence he didn't dare break. As the water boiled, I thought of all the times I had done this before, comforting him with tea after heartbreaks, after disappointments, after childish mistakes. But this time, this wasn't childish. This was betrayal. When I placed the cup in front of him, he looked at it as if it were salvation. He sipped, his hands trembling, and I watched him closely, memorizing every twitch, every flicker of his eyes. He avoided my gaze when he spoke again. "I've been staying with friends, but they don't want me there anymore. I don't have anywhere else to go." And there it was, the truth peeking through. He wasn't just here to apologize. He wasn't just here to admit regret. He was here because he needed something. Shelter. Safety. Maybe even more money. "Why now?" I asked quietly. "Why tonight? What drove you to my door after all this time?" He hesitated, his knuckles white around the cup. "Because, they're after me." I froze. "Who's after you?" He looked up, eyes wide, fear flooding them in a way I had never seen before. "People I owe money to. Dangerous people." The room tilted. Suddenly, everything clicked into place, the half-truths, the desperation. The way he had come crawling back not with love, but with fear. My son wasn't here just because he missed me. He was here because he was running. I set my own cup down slowly, my fingers steady even as my heart pounded. "So you didn't just waste my savings. You buried yourself in debts. And now you've brought that danger to my door." He swallowed hard, his silence louder than any denial, and in that moment, I realized something chilling. Letting him in hadn't just reopened old wounds, it had invited new ones into my home. The knock on my door 6 months later wasn't just my son's return. It was the arrival of the storm he had created. And now, I was standing right in its path. That night, sleep did not come. The house was quiet, but it was the wrong kind of quiet, the kind that buzzes in your ears, that makes every creak of the floorboards feel like a warning. My son had taken the guest room, yet I could hear him shifting restlessly, pacing, muttering under his breath. He thought I couldn't hear, but a mother's ears, they never stop listening. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind spiraling. Dangerous people. Debts. My savings gone, my peace stolen. And now, my very home threatened by shadows I didn't invite. I thought betrayal had broken me 6 months ago. But this? This was different. This was danger, breathing at my doorstep. It started the next morning. The phone rang. A strange number, unfamiliar. I let it go to voicemail. Seconds later, it rang again. The same number. I picked it up, my hand trembling. "Is he there?" a rough voice demanded. No greeting, no introduction. Just a question that sliced through me. "Who is this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Don't play games, lady. Tell him we'll get what's ours. One way or another." The line went dead before I could speak again. I stood frozen. The phone still pressed to my ear, the silence after the call heavier than any words could be. When I turned, he was there, my son, standing in the doorway, pale, his eyes wide. He knew. He had been waiting for this. "Who are they?" I demanded. "What have you done?" He ran his hands through his hair, his voice breaking. "Mom, please, don't get involved. I just need time. I just need a place to stay until I figure this out." "A place to stay?" I repeated, anger surging through the fear. "You bring danger to my door, you let them call my phone, and you think this is just about a place to stay?" He dropped his gaze, shame covering his face like a mask. "I didn't know it would get this bad. I thought I could fix it before it reached you. But the damage was already here." And it didn't stop with the call. That afternoon, as I watered the plants in the front yard, I noticed a car parked down the street. Dark windows, engine idling. It didn't move for an hour. My neighbors passed by, giving me strange looks, whispering. I felt the heat of humiliation on my cheeks. They didn't know the truth, but they could sense it. Trouble had arrived. I went back inside, locking the door behind me. My son was at the window, peeking through the curtains. "They're watching me," he said in a low voice. "They're watching us," I corrected. And that was the truth. His mistakes weren't his alone anymore. He had dragged me into his storm. That evening, the fear became real. Another knock at the door. Not gentle, not polite. Heavy. Demanding. The kind of knock that makes your stomach twist. I froze, my hand halfway to the handle. My son grabbed my arm. "Don't answer," he whispered urgently, but the knock came again, louder this time. And then a voice, "We know he's in there. Tell him to come out, or we'll make him." My knees weakened. My home, my safe place, my sanctuary, was no longer mine. It belonged to the danger he had brought. I pulled my son back, whispering fiercely, "You need to tell me everything. Now. Who are they? How much do you owe?" He swallowed hard, his face ashen. 30,000. Maybe more. I borrowed. I thought I could flip it, make a fortune. But it all collapsed. They won't stop until they get it back. 30,000. My breath caught in my throat. He had taken my savings, laughed in my face, and then drowned himself in debts far greater than I could ever cover, and now, the price wasn't just his. It was mine. The banging at the door stopped suddenly. Silence followed, eerie and suffocating. He and I stood frozen, waiting, listening. Then, the sound of footsteps fading away. They were gone. For now, but I knew it was only the beginning. I turned to him, my voice cold, steady, unlike the trembling heart inside me. "You've brought wolves to my door. And I will not let them devour me." He looked at me with desperation, tears brimming. "Mom, please. Don't give up on me. You're all I have." And I realized then, with a sharp ache in my chest, that this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about survival. Mine. His. Ours, but survival comes with choices. And the choice before me was brutal: protect my son, or protect myself. And in the silence that followed, as the shadows of danger thickened around my home, I knew that whatever I decided next, would change everything forever. That night, after the knocking faded into silence, I sat alone at the kitchen table. My son had retreated to the guest room, exhausted, broken, muttering half-pleas through the crack in his door. But I stayed awake, staring at the steam rising from my untouched cup of tea. My hands trembled, but my mind was sharpening. For the first time in months, I didn't cry. I didn't collapse into grief. Instead, I let the silence fill me, steady me, carve away the weakness. Somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, "Enough." For 6 months, I had carried the weight of betrayal. For 6 months, I had hidden my humiliation, counting coins while pretending to the world that I was fine. But tonight, with danger pounding at my door, I realized something vital. I had given him too much power. Too much trust. Too much of myself. And now it was time to take it back. I thought of him as a boy, his tiny hands clutching mine on the first day of school, his smile when he showed me a picture he drew, his sleepy voice saying, "Good night, Mom." My chest ached with the memory. That boy was still somewhere inside the man sleeping in my guest room. But was it enough? Was that boy strong enough to silence the man who had stolen, lied, and dragged wolves to my door? I rose quietly, my bare feet barely making a sound as I moved through the house. I checked the locks twice, then a third time. I pulled the curtains tighter. And then? I picked up the phone, not to call the police. Not yet. Instead, I began to dial numbers, old contacts, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Friends who remembered me not as a victim, but as a woman with strength. I asked questions, subtle ones. I wanted to know who these men were, the ones my son feared, the ones who dared to threaten me in my own home, and the whispers I received in return chilled me. They weren't just thugs. They weren't just loan sharks. They were men who thrived on desperation, who preyed on weakness, who bled families dry. But here's the thing, they underestimated me. They thought I was just a mother, trembling behind her door, praying for mercy. They didn't know that pain can turn into something else. That betrayal can forge steel in a woman's veins. When I returned to the table, I wrote it down. Every detail my son had given me. Every lie I suspected. Every clue I gathered from the whispers on the phone. A plan began to form, fragile but real. I wasn't going to hand him more money. I wasn't going to sell my dignity to cover his sins again. But I wasn't going to let these men dictate my fate either. If they wanted to come for him, they would have to come through me. And they would find that I was not the weak woman my son believed I was. Later, I checked on him. He was asleep, his body curled in on itself like a child. For a moment, my heart softened. I reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead, the way I used to when nightmares chased him. He stirred, mumbling something about being sorry, about not wanting to lose me, and I whispered back, though he didn't hear, "You already lost me once. I won't let you do it again." When I closed his door, I stood in the hallway, my fists clenched. A strange calm settled over me. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't acceptance. It was resolve. The danger was real. The wolves were circling. But they had no idea that the woman they thought was prey was learning to bare her teeth. The game had changed. And this time, I wasn't just a mother. I was something else, and when the next knock came at my door, I knew I would be ready. The Next evening, as the sun sank and shadows stretched long across the street, I felt it coming. You know that feeling, when the air itself grows heavy, when silence hums with danger? I sat at the table, my notes tucked safely in a drawer, my heart steady in my chest. My son paced the living room, restless, glancing at the window every few seconds. He knew, just as I did, that they would return. Wolves don't leave just because you ask them to, and then, it came. The knock. Heavy, deliberate, like a drumbeat of fate. This time, I didn't freeze. I rose calmly, my steps measured. My son rushed to me, panic in his eyes. "Mom, please, don't open it." I placed a hand on his chest, steady and firm. "You've hidden long enough. Tonight, we face this." The pounding grew louder. A voice barked from the other side, "We know he's in there. Last chance, open the door." I inhaled slowly, then unlocked it. 2 men stood there, broad-shouldered, their faces hard with arrogance. They expected fear. They expected pleading. Instead, they found me, calm, unwavering, standing tall in the doorway. One of them smirked. "Lady, move aside. We're here for him." I met his eyes, unflinching. "You'll speak to me." Behind me, my son whimpered, but I didn't waver. "You think you can threaten me? Come into my home and terrify me? You don't know me. You don't know what I've lived through." The taller one stepped forward, but I raised a hand. "Before you do something stupid, maybe you should know, I've spoken to people. I know who you are. I know where you operate. And I know what happens when your names end up in the wrong ears." His smirk faltered, just slightly. I pressed on, my voice like steel. "My son may owe you, but I don't. And I won't be dragged into his mess. If you want your money, you'll speak to him like a man. You will not come to my door again. Because next time, I won't be the one answering. The police will." Silence stretched. They hadn't expected resistance. They hadn't expected a woman's voice to cut through their intimidation. Finally, the taller one sneered, spitting at the ground. "You've got guts, lady. But guts don't pay debts." He jerked his head at my son. "You've got 1 week. Then we're done playing." And just like that, they left, their footsteps echoing into the night. I closed the door, locking it tight, then turned to my son. His face was pale, his body shaking. "Mom, what have I done?" For the first time, I didn't soften. I didn't cradle him. I let him see the truth in my eyes. "You destroyed trust. You brought danger into this house. And now, you will face it. Not me. You." Tears streamed down his face as he sank to the floor. "I don't know how to fix it." I knelt beside him, but my voice was firm, unwavering. "You fix it by changing. By taking responsibility. By standing on your own 2 feet instead of stealing mine from under me." He nodded weakly, and in that moment, I saw it, not a complete transformation, not yet. But the beginning of it. The boy I once knew flickering faintly inside the man he had become, and me? I felt something shift inside. I wasn't healed, not completely. Betrayal leaves scars that never fade. But I had reclaimed something more important, my voice. My strength. My place in this story. 6 months ago, I was the victim of my son's greed. Tonight, I was the woman who stood between wolves and refused to be devoured. As I turned off the lights and walked to my room, I whispered to myself, never again. Because this wasn't just a story about money, or betrayal, or even about him. It was about me finding out that even in the darkest betrayal, a woman can rise, stronger than before. And to anyone listening right now, maybe you've faced betrayal too. Maybe you've been underestimated, dismissed, cast aside. Let my story remind you, you are stronger than they believe. Stronger than even you know. If my story touched you, stay with me. Subscribe, share, because voices like ours, the voices of women who endured, who survived, who refused to break, deserve to be heard. And never forget, sometimes the greatest revenge is simply standing tall when they expect you to fall.